Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're launching a full-on detective investigation into one of the biggest cold cases in human history, the Great Pyramids of Giza. Seriously, for millennia, these massive structures have completely defied our understanding. We're going to break down the arguments step by step, looking at the case for extraordinary human ingenuity and the incredibly provocative theory of extraterrestrial intervention. Let's dive in and see what the evidence actually tells us.
Part 1. The Giza Enigma.
Three-sixtieths. That is the fraction of a degree to which the Great Pyramid aligns perfectly with true north. Just take a second to really let that sink in.
This almost impossible level of precision, that's the absolute foundation of our mystery today. When you look at the calculations involved in getting this structure perfectly oriented to true north, they are, frankly, mind-boggling. It's a level of accuracy that is incredibly difficult to pull off even today, and we've got highly calibrated modern laser instruments. So it naturally makes you wonder, how on earth did ancient builders manage this incredible feat? It completely sets the stage for the wild theories we're about to dig into.
Which brings us to Part 2, Engineering the Impossible.
Because we're not just talking about stacking a few large rocks here. We are talking about literally millions of limestone and granite blocks. And get this, some of these individual stones weigh an astounding 80 tons. 80 tons! And they weren't just dragged across the ground, they were perfectly positioned hundreds of feet up in the air. When you actually stand at the base and look up at them, the sheer volume and weight of it all completely defies simple explanation.
And right there is the core of the whole controversy. The conventional historical narrative says, hey, ancient people achieved this using Bronze Age tools. Copper chisels, wooden mallets, and some simple pulleys. But skeptics look at that and ask a pretty practical question. How exactly are you lifting an 80-ton stone hundreds of feet into the air with just some rope, a mallet, and a lot of elbow grease? For them, feats like this absolutely scream advanced tech. They're pointing to things way beyond the Bronze Age, like levitation technologies, sound frequency manipulation, or heavy machinery.
So let's explore that in Part 3, the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Let's actually define what this fringe theory is suggesting. The alien intervention hypothesis proposes that the pyramids aren't just tubes built by the local population. Instead, their construction was guided or maybe even entirely executed by advanced extraterrestrial visitors. Under this lens, these enduring landmarks might have served a high-level technological utility. We're talking massive cosmic beacons or maybe even planetary power plants, way before they were supposedly repurposed by the Egyptians.
And the folks backing the alien theory, they look deep into the structural design to make their case. They argue that the internal chambers and shafts point to a highly advanced grasp of physics and mathematics. That true north orientation we talked about, that demands mastery of incredibly complex geometry. And the layout of the three pyramids themselves strongly suggests deliberate stellar alignment. So the argument here is that the builders had this profound, complex scientific understanding that just feels completely out of place for that era in human history.
Building on that stellar alignment idea, theorists famously argue that the layout of the three Giza pyramids is a direct, deliberate map of the stars in the constellation of Orion, which prompts a massive question from the extraterrestrial camp. How did an ancient agricultural civilization possess such an incredibly profound and accurate understanding of celestial mechanics? Well, to them, the answer is simple. This knowledge wasn't developed locally. It was a gift from an intelligence that traveled the stars.
But let's look at the other side. Part 4. The Case for Humanity.
Because orthodox archaeology actually provides a highly compelling counter-argument, and it's grounded in hard, physical evidence found right there in the sand. Researchers have discovered extensive worker villages right at the site. They've literally unearthed the ancient tools we mentioned earlier. Plus, there are written records explicitly documenting massive, highly organized labor forces working under the strict direction of pharaonic architects. For generations, this incredibly solid physical evidence has formed the consensus that extraordinary human ingenuity is responsible for these monuments.
However, there is one specific detail in the conventional historical timeline that just constantly fuels the fire of this debate. 20 years. That's the estimated time it took to complete this entire monumental construction, according to orthodox historical models.
Which begs the question, is that a mathematical impossibility? Proponents of the alien origin theory look at that 20-year timeline. They run the numbers on quarrying, moving, and perfectly placing millions of multi-ton blocks, and they say, no way. This speed is literally impossible with primitive tools. In their view, the human workforce described in the historical record was basically just maintaining or modifying a site that had already been established or at least heavily aided by far superior forces.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, an enduring cosmic mystery.
So why does this relentless debate between human ingenuity and alien architects continue to captivate us so deeply, even thousands of years later? Well, the allure of the extraterrestrial theory persists because, as one perspective captures it perfectly, it offers an explanation for our ancestors' greatest achievements by imagining that we are part of a larger cosmic narrative. We have this deep-seated desire to belong to a grander story, to feel like we're connected to something far beyond our own isolated planet.
It's like we're constantly caught in this balancing act. This debate highlights a profound tension. On one hand, we want to respect our own history, to acknowledge the sheer capability, intelligence, and absolute willpower of ancient humans. But on the other hand, we have this innate desire to explore the provocative, if unproven, possibilities of our place in the universe. We are torn between celebrating what human hands can actually achieve and just gazing up at the sky, wondering about our potential cosmic neighbors.
As we wrap up this explainer, the mystery of the Great Pyramids remains completely intact. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. When a civilization defies the very limits of its environment to create something so vast and so incredibly precise, is the immortal result the ultimate testament to human willpower, or is it a cosmic footprint left behind by star-traveling visitors? Thanks for exploring the Giza Enigma with me today. Keep asking questions and keep looking for the evidence.